Today we report on the latest all-cause mortality data for Australia, just published by the ABS. We'll also take a quick look at data trends and a few things happening in Scotland, UK and Germany. First to Australia. This month the ABS has produced just a summary report, a top-level report, but from our calculation we can tell you the all-cause mortality excess rate has not dropped. For October alone it remained significantly above the baseline average, and we estimate the all-cause mortality year to date is still sitting around 16%. But let's talk lives ended. And year to date, Australia is recording a total of 159,965 deaths. That's all deaths, all-cause mortality. By the way, there also appears to be an emerging increase for deaths in the 45 to 64 age cohort. More on that in the next report when we have more data to dig into. And we project by the time official data comes through for December registered deaths, Australia is likely to reach a staggering figure of close to 25,000 excess deaths for the year. That's extra unexpected deaths, excess above the baseline 5-year average. We see plenty of celebrities and people in the public eye dying suddenly, dying with cause unknown. But beyond the Lisa Maries and the Diamonds of the world, what about the everyday people? Because this is having impacts on everyday people and families. In 2022, for communities right across this nation, it means that we will have lost close to 25,000 lives, as we say. That's thousands of grandparents, mothers, fathers, teachers, plumbers, doctors, truck drivers, shop assistants, farmers, professionals and pilots. Heart attacks are becoming a major killer. Here, for example, is The Age and Sydney Morning Herald, the Fairfax papers on January 21st, declaring deaths from ischemic heart disease were 17% higher than would be expected in a normal year. Just read that again, 17% higher than would be expected in a normal year. Professor Tom Marwick, director of the Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute, said, "For years, cardiac deaths have been the leading cause of death in Australia. That pandemic has only increased the risk factors. It's kind of the last straw," said the professor. The camel's back was straining under the burden of risk factors. Then we have an infectious disease on top with a bunch of inflammation. Hey presto, we get an increase of cardiovascular events. So there you have it. Don't suggest anything else. Now you know. Trust the experts. It was the camel's fault. Meanwhile, other experts such as Robert Malone, Peter McCullough, who's coming to Australia, and Australia's own Professor Robert Clancy don't get a look in. They're not interested in what they think, or their data, or their science. Let's take a look at what Professor Clancy is saying in a recent online interview.
The other issue with the messenger RNA vaccines that no one wants to even think about is that we have what's called a reverse transcriptase. Now, that's an enzyme that exists in our cells that can take the messenger RNA and convert it back into DNA. And what we have no idea about, we know that can happen, it's been demonstrated, is the implications of that in the individual by changing the DNA. Are you producing a potential cancer risk? Or if it gets into the germline, are you producing a risk for transgenerational expression? Now, we don't know. We don't know these answers. And to go to your point, to have in my country, in your country, in Canada and America, where the people who have no understanding of these issues are advising government, oh look, give us lots of money. We only want $1 billion. We'll produce all these messenger RNA vaccines for you. It is crazy. It is the craziest thing that I have seen.
We now know the mRNA toxic spike protein crosses the blood-brain barrier. It also causes blood clots and other associated adverse events. We also know that it has a significant impact on the heart. Myocarditis and pericarditis get a lot of attention. Going forward, what will be the death rate of the young people, particularly men, who have had serious myocarditis events? Even if just 10% of these people who have experienced such an event were to die, this would be a national catastrophe. The various aspects of the COVID injections and their impacts, which senators such as Antic, Rennick and Roberts have pursued with the various agencies, the health agencies and Minister, and now MP Russell Broadbent is pursuing with the Federal Health Minister, they seem to be getting ignored. Nothing to see here. Excess deaths in Australia in just 1 year, more than half of all deaths in World War II. But that's not even the full story. Reference the myocarditis. What is the long-term effect? We don't really know. Whatever the reasons for this increasing death rate, and different rationales and reasons are being presented by experts and commentators and the media, did someone say climate change? The overall rate is continuing on its tragic trendline. Let's go now to Scotland just for comparison. A different time frame, but official data out mid last week is recording a surge in deaths for the first 2 weeks of calendar 2023.
So last week we seen more than that. Now how can that be? How have we seen more excess deaths now than ever recorded in Scotland? Last week, week 2, 2,020 deaths. The week before it there was 1,500 deaths. Now 1,500 is excess in itself, so it's not like we're seeing a lag in deaths. This has actually shocked me today. It really has shocked me. And we're seeing it across all age groups. We're seeing it across all settings. There's a care home deaths, 475 deaths in a care home, which is the highest recorded care home deaths in a single week in the last year, if not further. And if you look at it by age group, we're also seeing 52 deaths in people aged 15 to 44, which is higher than any other time in the previous year. And we're seeing it in 45 to 64-year-olds in all the age groups. Now this is affecting everybody. Now Scottish Unity has been tracking this for the last couple of years. The red graph here shows the excess deaths in 2022, and what we're now seeing is more deaths in 2023. When is this going to end?
As an aside, cerebral vascular deaths is now their number 4 killer. But it's more than current deaths, same as in Australia. The impact on medical services, the demand for emergency care is increasing the risk of dying. The Scotsman newspaper reporting earlier this month of waits for A&E of up to 4 days. And speaking to the Scotsman, Dr. Lowry said, quote, that after 5 or 6 hours in an emergency department, the likelihood of death increases. It's much the same as in the UK, where the system there, the NHS, is on its knees. Meanwhile, in Germany, the excess deaths for last year came in under the 20% mark. However, the trend line is heading north, and they've just recorded 1 week of plus 26%. Whether it's Australia, the UK, Germany, or the US, the pattern is much the same. The trend lines are very similar. The figures might vary slightly, but the picture that's presenting globally is much the same. These are astonishing figures. Please share this information and get it through to your friends, your families, your workmates, so people can understand what's actually going on, the real complexion of this post-pandemic situation we're in, the impacts on the health systems, and what it's going to do to this country. Please share it and follow us on Rumble. Thanks for listening. Appreciate your support.